Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on The Rape of Lucrece, which is a very long poem about sexual violence towards women and suicidal ideation. So if those are triggers for you, please tune out. But if they are not and you want to hear today's stanzas, we're going to look at stanzas 229 to 232. So we've recently been hanging out with Lucrece as she's killing time waiting for her husband to come home, and she was looking at this painting of the siege of Troy, and she was commiserating with Hecuba and yelling at Paris, and she started ripping up the image of Sinon, and then she felt a little silly about it because she realizes that just because somebody else has suffered, that doesn't necessarily make her feel better, and especially because this is a painting. Like, those aren't actual people that can commiserate with her. So she does all of that, and then she's like, when is my husband getting home? And he shows up. The messenger had gotten him, and Collatine and his whole train of people have come back home to see her, and he sees her, and her eyes are puffy, her face is pale, she looks disheveled, she's all out of sorts, and he just looks at her for a minute, not quite able to figure out what's going on. The two of them just sort of look at each other for a minute, and stanza 229 picks up there by saying, "At last he takes her by the bloodless hand, and thus begins. What uncouth ill event hath thee befallen, that thou dost trembling stand? Sweet love, what spite hath thy fair colour spent? Why art thou thus attired in discontent? Unmask, dear, dear, this moody heaviness, and tell thy grief, that we may give redress." 3 times, with sighs, she gives her sorrow fire, ere once she can discharge one word of woe. At length, addressed to answer his desire, she modestly prepares to let them know her honour is taken prisoner by the foe, while Collatine and his consorted lords with sad attention long to hear her words. And now this pale swan in her watery nest begins the sad dirge of her certain ending. "Few words," quoth she, "shall fit the trespass best, where no words can give the fault amending. In me more woes than words are now depending, and my laments would be drawn out too long to tell them all with one poor tired tongue. Then be this all the task it hath to say, dear husband. In the interest of thy bed, a stranger came, and on that pillow lay, where thou was wont to rest thy weary head. And what wrong else may be imagined by foul enforcement might be done to me, from that, alas, thy Lucrece is not free." So it's a little bit of a weird place to stop, but we'll get to hear more of her story tomorrow as she recounts it to her husband and all of these other people that are around. But the first stanza, he finally finds words, and he takes her by the hand and is like, "What? Please tell me what's wrong." And then she needs a moment to sort of get herself together and figure out how to actually tell this story. And in stanzas 3, the 3rd and 4th stanzas here, she starts to tell it, and she's like, "I'm not really going to have the words to be able to say this, but I'm going to try to say it anyway." And she's like, "Okay, so last night somebody came and joined me in the bed, and you can probably imagine what happened from there." But she's not going to leave it just to their imaginations. She is going to be a little bit more specific in her description of what happened. And we will hear more of that in the next day's worth of stanzas. So be prepared, or be prepared to tune out if you're not in a mind place where you can handle that retelling. I completely understand. But anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.